Lions fans up in arms about the officials, Brian Branch. We get Colton Pouncy's view on a Tuesday Locked On Lions.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, here we go, everybody. Another episode of Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day on a Tuesday, October 14th, and a Wednesday, October 15th. Matt Dery with you, Colton Pouncy joining us today from The Athletic, and also the brand spanking new Lions Collective podcast. A lot to discuss, of course, of the Lions loss Sunday night to the Chiefs. Big game coming up against Tampa Bay this weekend. Thanks for making us your first listen, everybody, and checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you to our everydayers that are out there as well that watch or listen to the podcast daily. Need to get a call of the day from one of you for tomorrow. So if you want to do that, please hit us up and leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/Dery podcast page. Brian Branch suspended. We touched on it yesterday. Colton Pouncy, as I talked about from theathletic.com, with us today to talk about that and a lot more. Colton, great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for letting me catch up on some sleep a little bit after the game. Got back to my hotel room around like 3 a.m., had a 7 a.m. flight, had to be at the airport early, so I feel rested and ready to do the show. I'm down.
Did you get any barbecue while you're in Kansas City?
Yeah, I did. We went to Q39 out there,
Yes.
Good spot that's been recommended to me a few times.
Nice.
That was Saturday night, and then on Sunday before the game, me and Nolan Bianchi went to Slaps, I believe, which is another great spot out there. So,
all right,
got my fill of barbecue for sure.
No trip to Joe's this time.
We wanted to go to Joe's. It was closed on Sunday, unfortunately, so we went to Slaps instead. But that's on my list too.
I love it, and hopefully Nolan behaved himself. He didn't get a little too crazy in Kansas City.
Yeah, he was all good.
All right, and Colton, a part of that beat writer group that is so great, and appreciate all those guys when they do come on with us. All right, so obviously the talk, fans are going nuts right now. Obviously, as I said in the open, for two reasons. Number one, Chiefs don't commit a penalty, and then of course the Brian Branch suspension. Where do you want to start? What's jumping out at you right now?
I think Brian Branch is kind of where I want to start because that affects the Lions more going forward. I actually wrote a column that ran this morning just on, how detrimental that is for this Week 7 game. And just this is sort of a pattern with Brian Branch. He kind of lets his emotions get the best of him on the field. We've seen it a few times now. There's that Green Bay game in 2024. He gets ejected for helmet-to-helmet contact, and then he kind of puts those double birds on his way out for an additional 15 yards.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. No. Yeah, for an additional 15 yards, though, and that hurt them in that game. They obviously come out on top, but that's putting your team in a bad spot while you're unavailable. You had Week 1, Packers' first drive of that game. Him and Tucker Kraft are going at it as they do. Tucker Kraft is blocking a little bit after the play. That happens in the NFL. You could see that happening probably every other snap, right? And Branch has his helmet, Kraft's helmet in his hand, and what does he do? He tosses it 10 yards while smiling and gets a 15-yard penalty. 2 plays later, they score. Tucker Kraft scores right in front of him, so he tends to put himself in these situations where he's hurting the team. He's such a great player. He's really thoughtful and engaging off the field and in the locker room when we talk to him. So I don't know if he's one of those athletes that just has, switch, that that comes on when he enters the field, enters the game, and he just needs to kind of control that a little bit more, in my opinion, because he's such a great player. But what happens now is that dominates the news cycle, and that's what you're remembered for. When they should be talking about how good of a safety you are, how good of a defender you are. He's the second best defender on this team, in my opinion. And so now he's going to be out for that Week 7 game against the Bucs. And that's bad news for a secondary that's already hurting. So I think he needs to be better. I think he needs to kind of learn how to control his emotions a little bit better because it's hurting this team, and it has for a couple years now.
Is this why, he's so good, like you said, and what a steal to get him in the second round. But is this maybe why he dropped in the draft? I'm trying to remember if there was talk about just some of this hot-headedness that we've seen.
Yeah, I don't remember that being part of the discussion coming out of the draft. Like by all accounts, he was this great person, and not saying he's not, but I don't remember this part of the scouting evaluation if it was part of it. To me, it was just the slow 40 time, people not knowing how to evaluate safeties properly. We still see that a little bit since that draft, but yeah, I mean, we're seeing it now with the Lions for sure, and it's a bit of an issue. And he has a chance to be a really good safety. He's already one of the top safeties in football. He's a chance to be an All-Pro this year. But he does just get in these modes where he lets the game consume him. He gets a little bit selfish, in my opinion, when he's in these one-on-one situations, whether it's with Tucker Kraft or with Juju Smith-Schuster, who has a bit of a reputation himself. I think the problem going forward is this happened on national television, Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs. So you had a lot of people in this game. If I am a wide receiver on another team and I'm an agitator, I'm like licking my chops trying to go against Brian Branch, get in his head and take him out of the game, because otherwise he's going to hit you hard. He's going to cover like a corner, like he does everything right. But if you can get in his head and rattle him, we see the effect sometimes. So I think that'll be probably the message. I talked to DJ Reader after the game about Brian Branch and just the message to him. And he said, we're going to have a conversation. I'm sure a lot of people are trying to have conversations with him, but not only just for us and in the team, but for his own sake, because he's costing himself a lot of money with these penalties. The game check is going to be substantial that he's going to miss with this next one. And then he's not going to be out there available for his team. And one thing that Dan Campbell, it's sort of a prerequisite to play for him, is to be a good teammate and to be there for your teammates. And when you're putting yourself in these situations, that's the opposite of what he wants. So there will be a conversation with him. I'm sure they'll get it cleaned up, but in the short term, it certainly hurts him.
You mentioned, I'm talking to Colton Pouncy, by the way, from theathletic.com. You mentioned before about DJ Reader taking him aside. Dan Campbell after the game said it's unacceptable. Who else polices that? Who else do you see as being in that locker room that could put his arm around him and make sure this goes away?
Yeah, I think it's Alex Anzalone. He's sort of the veteran defensive player in that room, that locker room. And he's sort of the calming presence, I would say. So I imagine he's going to say something, maybe a guy like Derek Barnes, who's been around for a few years now. Those linebackers really do a good job of kind of like calming the storm around the chaos sometimes. There are a few players, maybe Hutch even gets involved. He's a captain on the team. So I can imagine those three probably to start with, but even a guy like Saint on the other side, he's sort of he's a captain on this team, and he is that voice for a lot of guys in this locker room as well. So I imagine there will be a lot of conversations with Brian. He might be a little sick of him by the time he returns to the building. But that is sort of where they're at with him, and he needs to be better, plain and simple.
He's appealing. I mean, Derek Brooks is one of the people that might have to listen to the appeal, and Derek Brooks played his whole career in Tampa.
Yeah.
I don't think as a Bucs alum, he wants to see any part of Brian Branch Monday night, but how is this? Are they going to hear this pretty quickly? What are you hearing about that?
Yeah, I think my understanding is it's going to go pretty quickly. They should have an answer in a matter of days, but yeah, I think it's in an appeal committee of 3. Jordy Nelson's involved too, I believe, and one other person. But yeah, I imagine it'll move quickly just so they can have an answer one way or another. I actually don't think this is the worst game for him to miss. I think if it's this one or the next game after the bye, Minnesota, I think you'd rather him be around for that one than this one. Obviously, the Bucs are a contender, but that's a divisional game. So, couple of ways to look at it, I guess. And I also think, with the Bucs missing some of their top receivers right now, it sounds like Emeka Ibuka might not be able to play. Chris Godwin might not be playing. Bucky Irving might not be playing. So maybe that's a game you feel a little bit better without him. Just get it over with. But it'll be interesting to see how they handle it and if he wins that appeal ultimately.
All right. So if Branch is out, which we think he will be, Kirby Joseph's basically on one leg right now. Yep. We know about the cornerback room. Thomas Harper played pretty well in about 10 snaps the other night. He had that PBU on that 4th down play, but who else is going to be out there?
Yeah, I mean, that's a question we're all asking. I think probably next man up is Thomas Harper based on what we saw when Kirby left that game. I did think he played well, but it was very limited snaps. I think we need to see more of him to feel better about that situation. Lawrence Strickland, maybe they can get him back. He was inactive, and maybe they call him up if he's ready to go. But they're pretty thin in that defensive backfield, and that's sort of the issue why the timing of this hurts them even more. Branch was already playing injured. He wasn't 100%. So that was already going to be a tough pill to swallow, even if he is out there and available. Now he's not, and the depth has really taken a hit the last few weeks here. So maybe they try to add someone. I'm not really sure, but probably Thomas Harper next man up for sure.
And Avonte Maddox was also out last week. Number one, what's his status? Number two, do they like him better at corner or safety? Because I know it's gone back and forth these first few weeks.
Yeah, in training camp it was a little interesting because I think he almost, I want to say he started going back to OTAs as sort of a safety number 3. And then they liked him more in that nickel spot. And they tried Rocky Sin a little bit at safety in training camp, and he had some ups and downs there. And obviously he's needed at corner right now. So, if Avonte can come back, we'll see his status. I'm not quite sure if he's ready yet, but if he is, I imagine he'll probably get the start at safety. But again, a lot of moving parts here for this defensive backfield.
Yeah, and like you said, a pretty big game coming up this weekend against Tampa Bay, the Monday night game, the early game. So Colton will not be in bed at 3:30, but maybe at 2:30. We're going to talk to him about that game and much more coming up next here on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Lions. And today's episode brought to you by Built. Nobody likes paying rent. We know that. But if you might as well get something for it. That's where Built, B-I-L-T, comes in. Built is changing the game by turning your rent payment into real rewards you can actually use. When you pay rent through Built, you earn flexible points that can be redeemed toward hundreds of hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and more. Built isn't just about rent. It's about rewarding you around your entire neighborhood. Whether you're grabbing food at your favorite local restaurant or heading to the gym, you can still earn rewards with Built. They made everyday life feel more rewarding, from your neighborhood to your travel plans. Turn your rent into rewards and start earning points now around your neighborhood by going to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNFL. That's JOINBILT.com/LockedOnNFL. Make sure to use that link so they know we sent you. Matt Dery on a Tuesday, Locked On Lions. Colton Pouncy with us from theathletic.com and the Lions Collective podcast. Plug that, Colton. You guys live Wednesdays, is that right?
Yeah. Myself, Will Birchfield, Jeff Ifrady, and Justin Rogers. We go live on YouTube 6 p.m. most Wednesdays. Sometimes we have to, Tigers kind of messed us up last week with Birchie having to be at the game. But most Wednesdays, 6 p.m. Catch us live. We'll be talking ball and talking Lions for sure.
JR is usually cooking at 6 o'clock on evenings. So that
pull him out of the kitchen.
Goes into his kitchen time. Yeah. All right. So 4-2 right now. I don't want to get to the Tampa game in a second, but what were your thoughts? First of all, let's go back to Monday or Sunday night again. Like I said, I get that the fans are upset about no penalties, and Smith-Schuster absolutely cheap shotted Brian Branch earlier in that game. What were your thoughts on that and just the game overall?
Yeah, I mean, Juju's going to do that. That's kind of what he's known for. I thought there were some penalties and missed calls, like the Travis Kelce catch that wasn't a catch. And I guess the Lions were thinking about challenging, and, Chiefs kind of ran up. That's one where I'm not sure if you can just, phone that in and say, hey, he dropped that, or hey, that hit the ground. But Chiefs get that play off and offsides, and Mahomes scrambles for 11 yards. So there are definitely some moments like that in the game. Even the touchdown that was wiped off with Jared Goff. I was a little confused until I read the pool report, and they said, okay, well, he kind of showed that he was going to be a quarterback. He walks up to Grant Glasgow, and then he motions, and if he's going to do that, he has to come to a complete stop. I did not know that was a rule. The Lions did not know that was a rule. And the fact that it took, I think, 1 minute and 14 seconds to overturn that call and flag them for a penalty, I've never really seen anything that lengthy before. So I understand in a vacuum why, you look at who they're playing. The Chiefs, they get these favorable calls. The Lions, they don't get those calls. And why fans are a little bit upset at that. But when I watch that game, I look at a Lions team that made some uncharacteristic mistakes. And I see Amon-Ra St. Brown dropping a catch that he makes 99 times out of 100. And that just happened to be the one time that he dropped it on 4th and 2. If you pick up that first down, you're running more time off the clock. You're probably adding at least 3 to your lead before the half. That probably changed the game in some ways. Second half, there was that roughing the passer penalty on Aiden Hutchinson. I don't know if he just thought Mahomes had the ball in his hand, but that was very late and one of those ones that's hard to argue against. So to me, the Lions just didn't play well enough to win. They got away from David Montgomery, who I thought was really running the ball well, and maybe that's part of the game flow at that point. But this was not a typical Lions performance, only putting up 17 points. against a team that was going to be pretty pissed off in Kansas City after losing to Jaguars.
Yeah.
So they just didn't put out their best performance, and they got beat by a pretty solid team. So that's kind of how I look at that one.
You said you never had seen that before. Yes, you have. We all saw the Decker reported play when touchdown. We're all celebrating. Everybody's going, "What a play!" And then all of a sudden, wait, you're dropping the flag now, which unfortunately I get why Lions fans get frustrated. Not throwing the ball down the field the other night, was that surprising to you? It just seemed like everything was dink and dunk, and J-Mo had a good night. Can they try to get him loose one time on a deep ball, even if it's incomplete? I just felt like everything was so short the other night.
Yeah, Jared's always going to take what the defense gives him, and he's super patient, and will take the checkdowns when they're there. Pick up 4, 5, 6 yards if it's there versus taking the deep shot. I think they need to incorporate more and have more of those plays drawn up for guys like J-Mo who did play well. He needed a sort of bounce back performance after the last 2 weeks, not really getting the ball. So maybe it was just the way the Chiefs were playing. They play some zone. They like kind of the too high look. So that takes away the deep shot sometimes. But, offense, to me, it's like they abandoned the run. Like David Montgomery was running the ball really well. This Chiefs defense allowed 4.8 yards per rush coming into this week. And Lions were having some success on the ground, and they kind of got away from it in favor of trying to play catch up. And, for a team that preaches, we're down to play the patient game. I thought they kind of got away from the run a little bit too early in that one. And it kind of cost them, in my opinion.
What else stood out? Defensively, obviously, it just Branch and Kirby are just not 100%, and that's just a huge missed tackles. Normally, those are ones those guys clean up, and I just thought Jack Campbell overrunning a play, which you never see. He's usually staying in his lane. It was just uncharacteristic stuff. And I mentioned yesterday, Tyleik Williams' name hasn't been called the last couple of weeks much. Yeah. Am I accurate on some of that stuff?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of missed tackles from the defense, which they've been one of the better tackling teams in the NFL this season. And I would say even last year, Jack Campbell had a few misses, which is very uncharacteristic the way he's been playing this year. He's been playing like a top 3 linebacker in this league. I think you really saw sort of the injuries at corner kind of showing in this one, because the Lions had to play a lot more zone than they're comfortable with. When I look at this one, I think they're hovering in the 70s when they're usually in the low 60s in terms of zone coverage rate. So they had to play a lot more zone because they probably don't feel comfortable putting their backups in man coverage for that often against these speedy receivers in Kansas City. So I think that hurt them a lot. Patrick Mahomes is much better against zone coverage than he is against man coverage, and he beat them. So I think not having those guys like Terrion and DJ hurt. And then the safeties, as you mentioned, like those guys are clearly not 100%, clearly, and it shows. And we talked to Kirby after the game in the locker room. Didn't seem super interested in talking to us. Does not like to lose, and I'm sure it hurts even more when he's hurting. So we asked him, "Hey man, like how's the knee? How you feeling?" He goes, "I'm going to play. I'm playing through it." And you can question if that's the right call, because if he's going to be kind of jogging out there, and that he's come out of the game 2 of the last 3 games before checking back in. So if it's going to be this sort of stop and start nature, he's not 100%. He looks like he's like 55% out there, if I'm being honest. And if that's what you're going to get from him, then that's sort of detrimental to the team at some point. Maybe they just feel he's better than all the other options they have. And again, they don't have a lot of other options behind him. So maybe you try to give him a breather for 1 game like you did with Decker, or 2 games like you did with Decker, and then you have the bye coming up. But it sounds to me like he wants to play through it, and maybe the bye week is what he'll need to kind of feel like himself again. But in the meantime, he's gotten through it, and it's been mixed results in my opinion.
Decker, you just mentioned Taylor Decker. Do you expect him back Monday night? And what about Aleem McNeil?
Yeah, that's a tough one because Decker's shoulder is really bothering him, and he's getting up there in age. He has not practiced at all recently. So it's like, if that's the case, maybe you just, like I mentioned with Kirby before, maybe you try to sit him a game and then you get the bye. So that would be 3 consecutive games that Decker misses, and then an extra week with the bye. And maybe you're like, let's just get him back for that November stretch. We got Minnesota, we got Washington, we got Philly coming up. Like, let's get him healthy for that stretch instead of trying to force it for this one. But this is a big game, and I think they know that. So if Decker feels like he can play, I think he's going to play. That probably wasn't the case the last 2 weeks, but we'll see what they do with him. And then Aleem, when they activate him off, brought him open his practice window. To me, it was maybe like either Kansas City or Tampa were the 2 games, because they said they want him back before the month. This is their last game of the month. So I think he's going to be ready to go. He was full participant the last week or so. I imagine he's chomping at the bit to get out there. He's probably felt like he's been ready for a couple of weeks now, but they've been cautious with him. And if he can be out there and cause some disruption up in the interior, that's going to help you win this game if you're short some other pieces in the secondary.
War with Colton Pouncy coming up next. Lions playing Monday night against the best team in the NFC right now, at least record-wise, in the Tampa Bay Bucs. What do they got to do to win that game? And what does Colton see as some keys? We'll get into that coming up next. But first, we got to tell you about our friends at FanDuel. You know the NFL season is in high gear right now, and FanDuel has an offer you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. Get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits and you win it, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You're going to have all day Sunday to watch everybody else except the Lions until they play on Monday night. So you get so many ways to play. You can build a parlay, try player props, and even follow the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. That's not just the NFL. That's college games and the full slate on Saturday. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Our man Colton Pouncy with us from theathletic.com. Subscribe and read his stuff. It's a fantastic at The Athletic. All right, Bucs coming in. Good time, bad time to be facing this team. And a lot of talk, Colton, about Baker Mayfield for MVP. And it's not just with his arm. I mean, he's been running and knocking people over. It's been a sight to see this year.
Yeah, he's been a lot of fun to watch. I'd put him in top 3 MVP discussion right now, just the way he's playing and the way he's willing his guys to these victories. Without Mike Evans, it sounds like, he obviously missed Bucky Irving. Godwin's been in and out. And now Luka's dealing with some injuries. That's tough. So if he comes out and is still playing well against this Lions secondary, I mean, I think you have to put him firmly in that MVP discussion through 7 weeks, if that's what we see this upcoming Monday night. But yeah, this Bucs team, they're playing some good football. They really are. Like, they're not winning by a ton. Their margin of victory isn't crazy, but they just find ways to get it done. I think you don't want to get into a fourth quarter battle with these guys because they usually come out on top. So I think you're gonna have to corral Baker. He's been making more plays out of structure, I've noticed, just from the few bits and pieces I've watched of the Bucs so far. And he's got a rocket arm, man. He's letting it launch. He's fearless down there. He's a really fun player to watch, and I have a lot of respect for guys like him, guys like Jared that were sort of cast off by their former teams and have found homes in new areas. So it should be fun on Monday night. I'm excited for that one.
Cast off. He's, my gosh, cast off by a couple of teams.
By a couple, yeah.
Excuse me, like Cleveland and Carolina just let him walk. It's crazy. We've seen this Lions Bucs. It's almost a rivalry now, but it's for some weird reason they seem to be playing every year. And of course, a couple of years ago they played twice, including the playoff game. But this is how the schedule maker, I guess, does things. But how do you view this matchup differently than maybe what we've seen before, including last year when I think everybody expected the Lions to beat them in week 2 and Tampa came in and won?
Yeah, for sure. And that game you had Frank Ragnow, who that was one of his worst games I've seen him play as a Lion. He kind of got tossed around there in the interior, and guys like Vita Vea and those dudes up front, like they're tough to mess with. They hold their ground, they can generate pressure from the interior, and that's really where Jared tends to struggle as a passer. He's been so good, just with his ability to process the field, get the Lions into the right situations, out of bad ones. He's become such a high IQ quarterback and has very few holes in his game at this point outside of his mobility. But when you can generate interior pressure, the internal clock speeds up a little bit more. He'll put some balls in the dirt, and then you can kind of get this Lions offense off balance, so to speak. So that game last year that they lost, I think they went 1 of 7 in the red zone. They really couldn't convert. That was sort of an anomaly in some ways, but I think it speaks to what Tampa does over there, and they have a really talented roster. So to me, I look at that game, they were passing to set up the run. That didn't really work. So I think you have to be committed to the run game. Even if it doesn't work, you're going to get some negative runs stopped at the line of scrimmage because that's what they do. But just be confident that you can get the breakout run from Gibbs. This might be a demo game. And, work that off the play action game to get yourself, into a close fourth quarter battle and try to come out on top against a team like this.
How about this division right now? Bears with a big win last night. Commanders kind of handed it to them late, but let's be honest, Chicago took it, which in past years they did not do.
Yeah.
Everybody over 500. And everybody playing pretty well. Minnesota coming off a bye now. Hopefully they're hoping to get McCarthy healthy. This is going to be some stretch run in this division, isn't it?
Yeah, this is what we thought from this division. To me, they look like they had a chance to be one of the best divisions on paper. You're just kind of waiting on the Bears to get their stuff figured out. The Vikings with the quarterback situation, which to their credit, they've kind of weathered the storm without JJ, and we'll see if JJ's ultimately lives up to the hype. But as things currently stand, all these teams are in good shape, and the Lions have their work cut out for them because it's not going to be a cakewalk.
Colton, great to see you, my friend. Keep up the great work. Love the new pod, and get some rest. I know it's been a wild week, and then you get another night game coming up. So it's never the stretch of 1 o'clock games every year. That's done. The Lions are getting a lot of attention. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but I know you're having fun with it, right?
I am. I miss those days. I miss the 1 p.m., but this is a good alternative, man. I like covering these night games. It'll be fun.
Hey,
so.
you don't miss covering MSU right now. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true.
Oh my gosh.
I'm having fun over here.
Yes, exactly. All right. Keep up the great work, buddy.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
And Locked On Lions today also brought to you by our friends at Rugiet. What do you get when you have a bald eagle standing on top of a silverback gorilla riding a T-Rex? Confidence, pure confidence. You're looking for something beyond the usual pill. It's time to get and meet Rugiet Go Long. You've heard of Viagra or Cialis. Well, maybe you've even tried them, but Rugiet Go Long, it's better. That's exactly where they come in. It's not just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence. The effects can last up to 36 hours. That's confidence all day, all night, and even into the next day. And the process is simple. Connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online, and if you're prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly right to your door. If prescribed, your treatment ships, again, discreetly to your door. Ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to Rugiet.com. That's RUGIET.com, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 15% off your first order. That's Rugiet.com, promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Make sure to use our code so they know we sent you. Great stuff with Colton Pouncy from theathletic.com and the Lions Collective podcast. Check that out wherever you get your podcasts. Those guys have a lot of fun on that show. Will Birchfield, Jeff Iafrate, Justin Rogers, and Colton Pouncy from The Athletic. And again, big game on Monday night, Lions and Bucs, everybody in the division, including the Bears. Those lucky sons of guns, the Bears. Oh my God. Commanders, just put Jane Daniels under center and have him hike the ball and hand it to the running back. What are they doing in the rain last night? God, that was frustrating. All right. We're back again tomorrow. Let's get a call of the day tomorrow. We got the crossover on Thursday right here on Locked On Lions.